Hello YouTube, thought we'd do a quick video here. I've had a few people ask me they're having trouble with their COM ports, and if you're trying to use your computer with your GMRS radio gear, whether it's the repeater, whether it's the interface board, whether you're trying to program a handheld or program a GMRS repeater, and you're having problems, you're getting error messages, this is what you got to do to check it. So in this video, this might be kind of a long video. I apologize, but I want to try to get this information out there to help people. So in this video, we're going to talk about the programming cable for handhelds, the programming cable for the repeaters, and the USB DB9 cable. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, I want to mention right away, if you're having problems, the first thing to do is make sure you are plugging in this cable directly into a computer. What I mean by that is, if you're plugging into a hub or an adapter that lets you plug in more than one USB cable into a computer, unhook the adapter, plug the cable in directly into the computer. Now, I have a USB extension cable that we're going to be using, and that is plugged directly in my computer. After you get your COM port working, then you can go ahead and try your USB hub. I've had cases where I got it to work, I hooked back the USB hub, and it worked just fine. It depends on the USB hub, I guess is what the best way to say that. But you got to get it working first. So if you have it plugged into anything but the computer, plug it in directly into the computer. So that's what I have this USB extension cable plugged into, directly into my computer. So let's talk about the cable for programming your Retevis or your Midland GMRS 2A radio repeater. So let's say you're having problems and you don't know why, okay? First thing we got to do is let's go ahead and we're going to go to the search bar over here. We're going to type in Device Manager. Okay, right there it is on top. We're going to double click on that. Now, when you open this up, if this is your first time ever doing this, you may see it looking like this. Let's just show you. You may look like this. If that's the case, you go ahead and click on the little arrow to open this up. Then we're going to go to ports right here. Okay? Now I already have some COM ports obviously in use. So now what we're going to do, now when a COM port is not working properly, you'll see an exclamation mark. So if you see that in here and it's for your cable, then you do have a problem. And I'm going to show you kind of what I mean here. Now, the one that you see on my computer, I know why it's doing it. Let me get my fancy little pen here. This one right here has an exclamation mark next to it. That's telling me this is not working properly. In my case, this is the virtual COM port I did a video on, and I'm using the free trial. And if you reboot the computer, you got to redo the COM port settings. So that's why it's showing that. But if yours is for something else and not that, then what you could try to do to try to fix it, let me get my, let's erase that. So let's say for an example, this one right here was doing that. You highlight it, you hit right click, update driver, and then you go to automatically search on the internet for a driver, and hopefully that could fix your problem. That's one thing you could try to do if you have an exclamation mark next to your driver. Okay, so I'm going to show you when you plug in your repeater cable what it should look like as a COM port. So let's go ahead, let me plug this in. Okay, now it's going to refresh, and do you see how it come up as prolific USB to serial COM port number 3, COM3. So whatever software I'm using, whether it's the Midland or the Retevis repeater programming software, I got to make sure I select COM port 3 under the settings. That's what this cable, in my case, is doing. Yours could be a different number, but it will tell you the number next to it. This is the exact name you should see when you plug in your repeater programming cable. So now, if I was to go to, let's call up the Retevis repeater program. Remember, mine in my case is 3. Yours might be a different number. It will tell you next to it what it is. But I got to go to set COM port communications, and I got to make sure I select 3, and I hit OK. Okay, the Midland, same thing. Go to COM, set 3, hit OK. Now I'm set to go. Now I can program, and I shouldn't have any errors. Okay, because there's no exclamation mark next to here. It's looking good. Okay, that's what you got to do. Now, I want to point this out. This happened to me, and it may not happen to you. I do a lot of things with COM ports, with different cables. As you plug them in, they automatically will assign it, and the computer will remember that. So no matter how many times I unplug this cable, it's going to be COM port 3. As I plug in other cables, the COM port numbers, like I plugged in this one, if I plug in other ones, get used up. And what can happen, I had this happen, I was to the point, I plugged in so many cables in and out, that I went to plug in my repeater cable to program my repeater, it came up as COM port 10. Not a big deal unless you're trying to use the Midland software. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say this is COM port 10, not 3. Well, if you go to Midland's, of course I clicked on the wrong one. I'll show you the Retevis one. The Retevis has up to COM port 20, I believe. Okay, so I'm good there. No problem. See all the ones that are grayed out that I can use? No problem. See, look at up to 20. Okay? Not Midland. Midland only goes up to COM port 9. So if my cable's coming up COM port 10, guess what? I'm in trouble. So how do you fix that? That's real simple. We're going to go back to Device Manager. We're going to go to here. We're going to unplug this cable. I'm unplugging it. Okay. So now it's just a 2. Now what you do, remember I said how the computer will always remember? We got to see what it remembered. To see that, you got to go to View, Show Hidden Devices. Now, do you see how it showed a lot more? The ones that are grayed out, which is this cable here I just unplugged, I can go ahead, the ones that are grayed out, if I need to erase some, I would right click on it, uninstall device. Now I'm going to do that because I want to show you something. Uninstall device and the driver. Make sure you check that box. Uninstall that. Okay. I installed that because we knew what the name of that one was. I installed it. So now I'm going to plug this in. This is going to act like the very first time I'm using this cable. And this is what you should see when you plug this repeater cable, programming cable into your computer. These are the messages you should see pop up. Now when they pop up, Windows should automatically detect. I'm using Windows 10 if I didn't mention that. It should automatically detect right in this corner. So let's plug this cable in. Now we got to wait. Set up device. And we got to wait. We got to wait for it to say device is ready. If I can do this fast enough, if I go back to device manager, do you see how it's grayed out right here? Or not grayed out, but see how it's got exclamation mark? Because it's still setting up the device. We got to wait. Sometimes some cables don't give you the device ready message. Oh, it's refreshing. Device is ready. Prolific USB to serial port is set and up, ready to go. Boom. That's what you should see when you plug this cable in for the very first time. And it's COM port 3 in my case. Look at your COM port number next to it. Now, not all cables come up with device ready. I don't know why. Some do, some don't. It'll say setting up the device and then there's no other message. But if you go to your device manager, like I am now, you can make sure it's working, because you should not see an exclamation mark like you first saw when this cable was plugged in until it got done to setting up the device. Okay? So, that's how that should act the very first time you set up your programming cable for your repeater. Okay, so now let's talk about the DB9. Same thing. DB9, your computer should automatically detect it. It may not come with a disk. I had one USB DB9 came with a disk. I had one that did not. This one did not come with a disk. This can work on Windows 11. Make sure your DB9 is compatible with the operating system you're using. I've had people already done that. They bought a USB cable or a USB DB9 cable, and it was for Windows 10, and they were running Windows 11, and guess what? It didn't work. Now, sometimes you can update the driver to fix it. In this case, the gentleman didn't want to do that. He sent it back. He just got another cable, and it plugged it in, and the computer automatically detected it, and life was good. So make sure you get the right cable for your computer operating system. Okay? Now, when I plug this cable in, watch. It's going to pop up. And it's coming up as COM port 5 in my case. Yours could be a different number. Pay attention to the number next to it. So now when I use this cable with software, whether it's Zello and gateway mode, whether it's date and time, I got to make sure I tell that to use COM port 5. In my case, 5. Your case could be a different number. But again, it will tell you right next to it what COM port number yours is. So don't do 5, because yours might be a different number, is what I'm trying to tell you. Just pay attention to what it says right here when you do that. Okay? Now this cable, I plugged in, Windows detected it, no problems, not a problem at all. They shouldn't have a problem plugging that in. Now, the same with, now let's go ahead and clear this. The same with if I plugged in the cable to program my handhelds. Let's plug that in. This, again, I've plugged this in before, so, and this comes up as the same driver as the DB9, but Windows should automatically detect this. If it's your first time plugging it in, you just wait for it to ready, then you can go to your device manager and double check it. And it's coming up as COM port 5 for this cable also. So anytime I use this cable, whether I'm using, if I'm programming my handheld, I got to make sure I go to the COM port settings in that software and make sure I select COM port 5. In your case, it could be a different number. Again, it will tell you what the number is next to the driver, as you can see here. So this is how you check what COM port number you need to use and to make sure there's no exclamation mark next to your particular COM port driver that you're using for whatever cable you have plugged in. This is how you check it. So, I hope this video is helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please post them down below. Please subscribe. Thank you, and have a good day.